at Mingle LLC, we have a product called Climber.com that uses search extensively. We have probably 60 or 70,000 profiles that we search, like full text search on. ActsAsSolr is a Rails interface to Solr search. Solr is Lucene, which is Java. But Solr wraps up Lucene in a nice tidy little package so that you don't have to do a lot of other stuff. It's very much like having a really powerful engine, and then Solr is kind of the car that runs that engine. You know, if you're going to build your own kit car, a really powerful engine is nice to have, and that's what Lucene is. But if you just want to go to the grocery store, you know, having a car that has that engine already in it and hooked up and ready to go is much more convenient. It's Java. But Lucene has a lot of manpower and a lot of work hours behind it. CNET, Search.com, and the Internet Archive, among quite a few other companies, all are backed by Lucene-based search. So, you know, one of the big advantages of going this way as opposed to like ActsAsSolr or one of the other really good search products out there is anytime anyone out in the Lucene community makes an improvement, finds a bug, you get to have that. You know, and you're not, you know, a lone soldier or a group of small, you know, a small group that's doing something from scratch. You're utilizing all of this time that's already been put in, and it's encapsulated in a way that you don't have to spend time maintaining it or dealing with it. Yeah. Command. Thank you. That's actually smaller, but we'll just work with it. Why do ActsAsSolr? It's easy to use. This is an example of what it would take to actually utilize ActsAsSolr in one of your models. Once you have the plugin installed, you just put in ActsAsSolr. You want to only search specific fields, you just tell it, hey, only search specific fields. And then later on, when you're trying to look for those things, instead of saying find, you say find by Solr, and it returns you the result set. For instance, here, we're looking for Ruby in any of our fields, and then the one on the bottom, we're looking for Ruby only in the title. And they're full text fields, so it doesn't, you know, it's a full text search. You're not limited to that first little bit, which is the only thing you can get if you're doing like a database-based search. How do I then change pages once I get to full screen? Left and right. Okay. Faceted search. One of the really powerful things about the Lucene search engine is it has the capability of doing faceted search. A faceted search is basically you're filtering out your search results. If you've ever been somewhere where you, like a real estate site, where you know you search for houses, and then you search for between this salary or you know this price and that price, and then on the next page you filter down, you want to, you know, make it even more and more finite. The ability to do that without having to go back and start your whole search over again is what faceted search is all about. And as you can see here, adding facets, you just say which of your columns is a facet, and then you search utilizing that facet. There's no, you know, magic or, you know, building that you have to do. It's all handled behind the scenes for you. Okay, demo time. 5 minutes. I've been able to do it in as little as 3, but I don't think that's going to happen tonight. So, close that guy. Grab terminal. Here we go. Fonts. Is that good enough? How's that? Now I'm going to shrink this guy down so I can see my thing here. Okay, so we're going to build a brand new app. Do you have SQLite 3, or am I going to run into problems? Okay. So, the magic scroll of a Rails app being birthed. We're going to go into our books application. We're going to just copy it. No, we're not going to copy and paste because we made it into a PDF. Guess we're going to type. Now, it should be noted that this is already unhappy. Okay. Undefined method gem. Somebody updated to the new Ruby gems very recently. I can do it. That'll freeze to gems or freeze to edge? Freeze to edge. Nope, that's not going to work either. It's just unhappy. Actually, let me just... That ought to do. Wait. Yeah, try that. Cool. That should be better. There we go. So now we have a model, and that model has the columns of title and author, and then created at and updated at. We're going to migrate our database, because since we use the scaffold, we got a free migration. It's all ready for us. Okay, now we're going to install Solr. Now, of course, some of you who are jumping ahead here probably see that because the directory is trunk, it's going to install the plugin trunk, and we're just going to move it. If anybody knows how to go directly to a Subversion repository and get it to have the name right, I'd love to hear that tip. Huh? Once upon a time, yes. Today, no. I'm just doing the script plugin install, yeah. If you were just doing a export or a checkout from Subversion, you can just add the name at the end. And I swear that used to work with plugin install, but anyway. So this takes up quite a bit of my section of time here. We're more than halfway through. Come on. You're almost there. One of the things ActsAsSolr gives you right off the bat is a testing instance of your Solr, so that you consistently have, your testing can be up against an actual, not your production data obviously, but as you're building your fixtures, they get loaded into your index so that they're available for you. That way you're not mocking out this huge chunk of your site, you're using the real deal. And if there's some issue or bug there on your production side, it's going to be, hopefully exactly the same on your testing environment. Of course, that means that the plugin is pretty good size when you check it out because it has an entire Solr instance in it. Solr comes with part of its packaging, if you will, is a Jetty, which is one of many options in open source Java servlet servers. Like I said, we run it in production just the way it comes. We don't have a separate Tomcat install. You could go to that extreme if you had Tomcat already on your servers somewhere. Then you can kind of bootstrap into that and not have an extra instance. But if you don't, if you're starting from nothing, then the Jetty servlet engine is perfectly good to be up and running. One of the things I didn't touch on, I think I moved too fast, is because Solr is separate from your Rails application, you can scale them independently. You can have a load balancer and, a large number of Solr, a Solr cluster basically, if you needed to. And on the other side, you can scale up, your Rails application to handle lots and lots of requests and still only have one index if you're not, you can find where that bottleneck is and you can just that spot instead of having to go back and forth. It's and because it's all communication over HTTP, they don't even have to be physically the same box. They can be separate boxes. They can be, in separate data centers, whatever you have to do to make that work for you. Another sort of gift of that whole architecture layer is that other programs or applications can be interfacing with the same index. So, for instance, say you had a Java like client-side application. It could be talking to the same Solr instance as your Rails app. Or you could have multiple Rails apps all working off the same indexes. So once you build a data store and have that value, you can sort of utilize it in lots of different ways. We've done some experiments at Mingle on having multiple different applications or instances running up against a single Solr instance. We haven't found any deadlocks yet. So that's at least a good sign. It doesn't mean there aren't any somewhere, but we have a Solr box, a dedicated server that serves Solr, and then we have a cluster of 3 separate boxes with 3 Mongrel instances each on them that all run the same Rails application, and they all talk to, directly to that box. There's nothing in between. There are no intermediate servers. And then we have like a desktop little application that you can run, and it hits the same index. It doesn't, so, and it's not a Rails app. It's just a little Qt Ruby program that kind of deals with, it uses the same libraries, same ActsAsSolr, but it doesn't, it's not a full-blown Rails application. It's not the same application, which is the important part in that. So you could build an application in Java, you could build it in C if you wanted, you could build it in Perl if you wanted, whatever. As long as it can speak HTTP, you can talk back and forth with Solr. This was so much faster earlier. Yeah, I think everyone got home. And OpenCSV can be drag a little bit, which is one of the reasons I'm used to doing an export, because if you leave it, then you're kind of hosed if the server goes down. I'm going to move forward while this is going, and then I'm going to come back. I know, I said 5 minutes. I was wrong. Setting up Solr on your production box is downloading it from the Solr website, unpacking it. It's a zip file, so unpacking it's pretty trivial. You copy, there's a config file in ActsAsSolr that gives you the XML config file, so you don't even have to dive into that XML file and try and figure out the settings. It means you can customize it if you need to, but you should be able to just copy that file over and then run, and you're good to go. In my experience, we haven't had any real reason to try and tweak the configuration, but that is available to you should you need to. That was not what I expected to happen. We'll try the other way. That's still going. Okay. Kind of out of slides here, so I'm going to say my thank yous, even though my presentation is not yet concluded. Thiago, whose last name I will not butcher, he's put in probably 90% of the code that you see in ActsAsSolr, is by his hand. And he, took the time, even though he couldn't be here with us tonight, to go through my presentation and make sure I wasn't lying to all of you guys or, sending you down the wrong path. Eric Hatcher kind of started ActsAsSolr and has since he decided he didn't want to work on it anymore, and so he kind of let Thiago take over maintainership of the project. Though he did contribute some initial code. Truthfully, most of that's kind of gone, but the idea was his. So he definitely gets a big thank you for that. I don't know if any of you guys have seen, but Eric Hatcher is actually speaking on ActsAsSolr at RailsConf. So that should be a really interesting talk. Mingle basically has footed the bill for a lot of the time we spent on this, which is kind of cool. And Patrick called me into doing this talk, so I'm going to thank him. And well, that's what we're going to be doing here in just a few seconds. As soon as it finishes downloading. When you get the ActsAsSolr plugin, you get an instance of Solr inside of it. Okay, that you can start up on your dev box or in testing mode, or make a copy of and have in production, right? And there's a reg task for starting it and a reg task for stopping it, and it's completely contained. Okay, the only big thing is you have to have Java, and you have to have I'm going to be going off of the stock Java that's on here as far as I know. Okay, so that should be, and that's not a non-issue. It does need to be Java 1.5, which is one little thing. You got to be at least that current. And it takes over port 8298, I think, or some combination of those four numbers. But it's a high-level port, and you can just send, if you wanted to talk to it via wget, you could. Okay, you could just make XML files and send them back and forth, and it would be happy talking to you that way. Jetty? It's Jetty. Jetty. We're literally, last week sometime, we went to the Solr website and we downloaded the nightly build and we copied our configuration file into it and we copied our index into it, and that was how we upgraded. Okay? Yeah, it's nice. It's really clean to do it that way. And Solr itself has an interface. I don't know what the right word for it, but it's got a little web interface, so you can go and you can, type something in the box and hit search, and it shows you the result. The internet is killing me. Yes, there are those settings. I can't attest to whether they're available in the admin interface right off the bat, or if you have to hit the config file. That could really go either way, and I'm not going to guess. It will hopefully eventually finish, and then we will see. One of the things we found over this, we replaced a mostly working ActsAsFerret implementation with ActsAsSolr. Let's see, we got the idea from the search talk at RailsConf last year. I think it was like a month after that we threw out Ferret completely and tossed this in its place. From our benchmarking, this was roughly 10 to 15 times faster. Yeah. And truthfully, even though it's Java, it was a lot less headache to set up. There's some things in the Access Ferret that make it a little more complicated. You have to get your languages set just right, and that conflicts with Subversion. So you can have some issues there, and there's a lot of little things that aren't that the code isn't good. It's just that the code is young and there aren't as many users yet. All right, I'm very sad now. Come on. Yeah. Ta-da! Okay, back on track. So we installed our plugin. We're going to quickly move it from vendor plugins trunk to vendor plugins ActsAsSolr. Notice there is no A in Solr. I'm not even going to speak to why that is. It's just not. I guess it makes it a lot easier to search for. The guy who gave us Java is currently working on a programming language called Jackpot. Can you imagine Googling for Jackpot in a couple years? It's going to be exciting. Okay, so we need to tell our class, our model here, which we call book, that it's going to be ActsAsSolr. Greater than, so an exclamation mark there. Okay. And then we need to do our little config file here. So we're going to go we're going on the local host. The port number is 8982. So I definitely had those numbers backwards earlier. I'm going to use the exclamation point. Okay. So now we're going to go rake Solr start. You guys can't hear it out there, but it's thinking. And away it goes. Important things to look for is the fact that it says started on the last line. If it says stopped on the last line, you are unsuccessful. Just like that. So, look, we have a Rails application. It has a books controller. We can add a book. It doesn't like me. Yeah, that's where the problem is. There we go. So we have a book. Now the question is, Solr admin, is it in our search index? Well, we have a little search box right here. And so we're going to say, let's look for Ruby. And we're in Safari. So it's not going to show us there's an XML file. This is an XML file that you're looking at. Command Option U. We'll just click. There we go. So we're looking at an XML file. It returned to us our book and gave us the information from it. We can use that when you're in Rails and you do a find by Solr. It gives you your active record objects. Send off you go. That's it. That's all there is. Now all I have to do is get detangled here from the computer. So, who's next? Or did you guys have any more questions? I'm sorry. We've been just communicating with it back and forth in XML. Right now, we haven't really. Oh yeah, it'll index a tremendous amount of stuff. We're working right now to get it. We're starting indexing a set of OpenOffice documents that people will upload resumes. We'll convert the resumes into OpenOffice format, and then they should be able to search those. And so far, it's been just really not hard. I mean, the hard part is how do you make a Word document an OpenOffice document without it being ugly? And, if you don't have to ever display it back to anybody, you don't really care as long as the words are there, right? So, once you get past that barrier, you're just sending it over. So.
That concludes this episode of the SD.RB podcast. See you next time.